What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warwick Report. It's time to talk about the Raptors and the three problems holding the Raptors back. Now, I've gone on the record to say that I believe that the Raptors are a top 5 team in the East, but they clearly have some issues that need to be fixed. So for today's video, I'm going to highlight some of these issues and really go in depth and show you some statistics as well. So if you're ready to watch this video, make sure you hit the like button, as it does help get this video out to a lot more basketball fans like yourself. If you want to hit the subscribe button as well, we're super close to 2,800 subscribers. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on this channel. So for today's video, the shout out goes out to Brian Hussein. So Brian, thank you so much for supporting this channel through your likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. And let's talk about problem number one with the Raptors, and that is the bench. So when we talk about the bench, it's important to highlight some of the statistics. And as we go through these statistics, we'll realize why Nick Nurse isn't giving the bench as many minutes as we had hoped. So when you take a look at the Raptors, where they're ranked at the bottom of the league, actually dead last in the league in terms of bench production, points from the bench, 24.5 points from the bench. We understand why guys like Fred VanVleet are playing 37 minutes per game. That is actually leaguing. So that is why we often see Nick Nurse just playing the starters such heavy minutes, is because oftentimes we build up big leads. But like we saw with the Clippers game, where the starters were playing great, and as soon as the bench came in, that lead really diminished. So as you go through some of these statistics, we realize why Nick Nurse has played limited minutes when it comes to the bench. The assist column is what really worries me, because we have 5 guys off of the bench, and you're telling me we're averaging 4.9 assists off the bench. So between the 5 guys, that's less than an assist per game. So that's a little bit worrisome, because not only are the Raptors bench struggling to produce some points, they're also not moving the ball very well, and this is a very concerning issue. And as you go along here, this is probably one that is the most surprising to me, considering that we have a lot of good rebounders. But when you take a look at the Raptors again, this is bench statistics. They're ranked 25th in the league in terms of bench rebounding, and they're only giving you about 13.9 rebounds per game from the bench. Again, so we saw Cam Birch off of the bench early in the season. Now we're seeing Precious Achiuwa, and we also have Chris Boucher off of the bench as well. Despite all of that, we're still averaging such little rebounds. That is a little bit worrisome. And now the next statistics is what really gets me, because I'm a little bit surprised that the Raptors are ranked so low, actually dead last once again. But judging off of this stat here, 27.3% from the three-point line for the Raptors bench is a little bit worrisome, because you would think Stanley Johnson is back playing for the Raptors, or we just have some players that cannot shoot the three-pointer, but that is not the case. We have guys like Svi Mykhailiuk, Malachi Flynn, Chris Boucher, who are known for three-point shooting, but all of those 3 guys are really struggling with their three-point shot this season, and that is what is hurting the Raptors, because I believe the Raptors are a good three-point shooting team. They definitely have some guys that are capable of shooting threes, but for whatever reason, the Raptors are just struggling. And when you go through these stats again, these are just really worrisome statistics, because when you talk about the bench is a key part. We all remember the bench mob several seasons ago, where the Raptors starters played great, but the bench just came in and gave you such a huge boost. And that is not the case with the Raptors this season. The bench has really struggled. And again, the free throw shooting, 73% for a team that shoots a really high free throw percentage off of the bench, is just not acceptable. So I believe the Raptors need a complete overhaul of the bench, and we just really need some guys on the bench that are dominant in at least one area. Yes, we need some good defenders as well, but we need someone who can just come off the bench and be a microwave, just give you some points, or someone who's a really good passer off of the bench, or just someone who's a very dominant rebounder off of the bench. So I think we have a lot of guys off of the bench that are capable of doing little things here and there, but not really dominant in one area. Now, of course, I forgot to mention Yuta Watanabe is very well capable of shooting the three-point ball as well. And imagine, he's actually shooting the three-point ball really well. I forget the stat, but had he not been off of the bench, just imagine how bad that stat would be in terms of the three-point shooting. So that is my first problem I am seeing with the Raptors, and it's time to move on to problem number 2, which the Raptors have to fix. And that is a legitimate center. Now, I know the Raptors have won 2 games in a row, and we've gone with the small ball lineup experiment, but let's be honest, when we're facing teams with bigger centers, we'll see that against Utah, and we'll see that against Milwaukee as well. Not that they have a very dominant center, but just in terms of having rim protection and just someone just being a good paint presence. Now, when we talk about the Raptors, this is actually a very funny and contradicting stat, because we talk about the Raptors and where they rank in the offensive rebound. I think for the offensive rebounds, we have guys like Scotty Barnes that are just absolutely hustling out there. But in terms of having centers that are very mobile. I think those kind of centers really help you get offensive rebounds. When you talk about the Raptors and their defensive rebounds, and this again is the entire team. This is not just the bench, but the entire team of where the Raptors ranked in defensive rebounds. They're ranked dead last in the league, which is a little bit surprising because you would think offensively they're doing a good job. So why are they not doing so great on the defensive end? I think it's just a case of not having a bigger center. I think you definitely need a taller and a bigger center just to be able to box up, just be that physical paint presence as well. And this you can tie in with the Raptors having issue with not having a bigger center as well. When you take a look at how many opposing second chance points the Raptors give up, again, they're ranked near the bottom of the league, giving up 15 points per game, ranked 28th in the league. That is a big issue with the Raptors, and I think ultimately we need a big center not only for those purposes, but when we face guys like Giannis as well. I think that is a big deal. We obviously know Marc Gasol was a key part of our 2019 championship run, and we just need a paint presence in there. As good as Precious and Kem Birch are, those aren't exactly guys you want protecting the paint. So I think those are guys. It's great to have guys like that that can be there at the end of the 5 minutes of the game where you really need your mobile centers to be able to guard 1 through 5. I think that's when you really use Precious and Kem Birch. But in terms of the rest of the game, you definitely need a bigger body in there just for rebounding purposes, paint production as well. So I think that's one of the things I'm seeing with the Raptors and where they need to improve on. Now, the third issue, I've gone on the record to say this several times, is veteran leadership. Now, this isn't a knock on any player. I think the Raptors have a good core of guys, but this was what Fred VanVleet had to say about Serge Ibaka this was before we played the Clippers. So it didn't mean anything at that time because Serge is always talking. He's always got a story. He's always got some motivational speech, and he doesn't know how to finish his speeches. That kind of sounds like me. But so he just rambles on for a while. At the time, it didn't mean anything. And then once we won, we could look back and say, damn, Serge did tell us when we were down 0-2. You look back and say, damn, he was a genius the whole time, and no one was listening. It was great, man. It was great for him to share his experiences. It made it funny because Kawhi was in the room, and Serge was telling us about how when they came back to beat Kawhi and Danny, it was a good lighthearted moment after we were feeling crappy about being down 0-2. We ended up climbing out of the hole, and a big part of that was him, obviously. So this was Fred VanVleet referencing Serge Ibaka's speeches after they were down 0-2 against the Milwaukee Bucks during our championship run. So I think having key guys like this is so underrated and underappreciated because again, this isn't a knock on guys like Pascal or Fred VanVleet. I think they're great players, but you always could use someone who's a little bit wiser, who's a little bit older, and just having that leadership in the locker room where they're talking. We saw Serge Ibaka obviously being mentioned here. Marc Gasol was a key part of that as well. Someone who doesn't necessarily need to play a lot of minutes, but is that voice in the locker room. A good example of this would be Udonis Haslem with the Miami Heat. He's just that voice who can, you know what, tell guys like Jimmy Butler, hey, you need to do this. Because let's be honest, there's not going to be a lot of players like that around the league that can really question your starters, or I should say your star players of the team. And a lot of people, let's be honest, are not going to say Fred VanVleet or Pascal Siakam should be doing this. But when you have veteran leadership, they can hold these guys accountable and just kind of be like, hey, you need to do this a little bit differently. And that is what I believe the Raptors definitely need. Now, it's funny we say that because we do have Goran Dragic, but we know the whole issue surrounding him isn't, he doesn't want to be here. The Raptors don't want to play him, but we definitely do need some veteran leadership. Even having one guy in the locker room that can just really tell these guys, you know what, you need to be fixing this, you need to do this, because at the moment there's not anyone older than these two guys on the roster except for Kem Birch, and Kem Birch doesn't really seem like the vocal type of leader. So I think we need a vocal leader in the locker room that just really helps mentor these guys as well. So I think that is one part that is a big issue with the Raptors. Veteran leadership is so underrated and underappreciated in the NBA. And I want to use this example as well before I end the video. PJ Tucker, when he was with the Raptors several years ago, when they acquired him from the Phoenix Suns, Kyle Lowry and Dwayne Casey went on to say that the leadership and the toughness of PJ Tucker always stayed with them. And that was obvious because Kyle Lowry ended up being an absolute bulldog. And also just what we saw with PJ Tucker, what he did with the Milwaukee Bucks as well. And obviously he was playing a lot of minutes, but just that leadership, that toughness he brings, I think that's what the Raptors are really lacking. We could definitely use someone like that. So these are my three problems that I think the Raptors need to fix. I think these are some of the three problems I think that they could fix and they could really help them take them to the next level. So I want to hear from you guys. Do you agree with some of these stats, some of these problems I've highlighted in this video, or do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I do have a trivia question for you today. And that trivia question is, this player was drafted by the Raptors between 2005 and 2010 and a player and played for Oklahoma State in college. Who is this player? Is it A, PJ Tucker? Is it B, Charlie Villanueva? Is it C, Ed Davis? Or is it D, Joey Graham? So I wanted to make this trivia question a lot tougher after I had that Spider-Man easy one last one. It was just for fun, but I wanted to make these trivia questions a little bit more challenging. So whoever answers this trivia question correctly and answers it first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. So I just want to thank you guys so much for supporting this channel, for watching this video, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.